Hello, everyone. Welcome to our One World Energy Encounter with the Zohar. This week's portion is Bechukotai in our edition of the Zohar. This is volume 16, page 390, and it is paragraph 25. The particular article is called, "And I Will Give You Peace in the Land," inviting in the Kabbalistic lineage of the Rab and Karen and Michael, Rabbi Shlag, Rabbi Brandwein, the Ariya Kodesh, Ramchal, Rabbi Tarfon, Rabbi Rama Mazulai, Rabbi Menachem and Tepsk, Rav Kolona Mishapir Piasatsa, the Baal Shem Tov, Rav Shimon Bar Yochai and all students, Rav Mordechai of Chernobyl, One Soul with Yosef Tzadik in Shechem. Today is the 23rd day of Iyar of Taurus. It is also the 38th day of the Omer, which means for us it is Tiferet of Yesod. So to a certain degree, it's balance in our desire to share Kabbalistic and spiritual wisdom with the world. So as we connect to these verses, let's consciously think about all the people we know who need healing. Also the souls that we know that are transitioning. We want to send them energy of elevation and assistance on their journey. Also, let's channel the energy of ending the war in Israel, the safe release of all the hostages, protection for all the innocents, the energy of Avat Chinam, unconditional love, and treating everyone with human decency, and also the energy of protection from evil speech and evil eye. Okay, verse 25. V'natashalom ba'aretz ushchavtem ve'en macharid. V'gomer. Rabbi Yossi Petach, Rigzu ve'al techata'u, v'gomer. Rigzu ve'al techata'u, hai krai ukmuha, Va'e barnash l'aragaza, yetzer tov al yetzer harab v'shapir. Al b'sha'ata d'ramash le'liyah, barnash shachiv al arsei, kama gar dine nimusin mitarin ba'alma, ve'azin v'shatin, u'b'nei nasha ba'an itragza mikame kuchabrichu, ula dachala mine. Begindala yishtechach nafshe begabayhu, v'yishteziv minayhu. Ve'yivele levarnash, d'la yapik minayhu mila befume. Begindala yitar lehu legabe, ve'la yishtakchun mahadeh. Hadotativ, imru bilvavchem al mishkavchem domosela, ve'la yapik minahu mila mipume. Maria?
And I will give you peace in the land, and you shall lie down, and none shall make you afraid. Rabbi Yoshi opened the discussion with the verse, "Tremble and sin not."
Okay, so the opening verse, which is a verse from this week's portion, "I will give you peace in the land, and you shall lie down, and none shall make you afraid." Now, obviously, we're connecting to peace in the land, which is a great thing, especially when we know that there's a war going on in the land of Israel right now. So for us, this is a connection to the energy of peace, which is something that we are setting our attention to every week. Every time we study the Zohar, it's something we want to set our intention about. And we definitely have the opportunity to do it here, but we also have the extra energy of a verse which actually speaks of that. And on a very simple level, it's the energy of peace, but not only is it the energy of peace, it's the energy of feeling comfortable and not threatened. It's one thing to experience peace. It's kind of next level to experience peace and not feel like you're threatened by outside forces. And as we'll see, there are a myriad of outside forces that can potentially be there that threaten us. Those outside forces are real. And, we need to acknowledge them. And there are things that we can do to create greater levels of protection for us, which we'll also talk about. And so that's a lot of the energy that's in this paragraph, and one reason why I chose it, because there's a lot of crazy things going on in the world. And at a certain level, we have to understand that yes, they appear to be crazy, but we also don't see the full picture. We only see really 1%. And part of seeing the 99% is when we see the deeper reality, we are also channeling this energy of protection for ourselves and for the world. Is it bulletproof? Well, I mean, don't walk out into traffic. Okay. So to assist us in unpacking this verse, we have a verse from Psalms, tremble and sin not. Now, that verse, there's a whole series of blessings we say. It's called Kriyat Shema Alamita. We say the Shema prayer before we go to sleep. And there are a series of verses that are there with different consciousness, but a lot of that consciousness is associated with having a good night's sleep at one level. At another level, while our soul leaves our body, it leaves us vulnerable to negativity. So the verses are there to assist us in maintaining a connection to our soul when we're in the sleep state and creating a pathway for our soul to return when we awake. So at one level, the prayers we say before we go to sleep are directly linked towards creating that connection. So we wake up in the morning. And beyond that, there are also a lot of negative entities that are there at night. And, when we're not able to be there consciously to keep them away, we're also vulnerable. So those verses are also designed to create a force field around us of protection of our physicality so that we don't pick up residual negativity. We don't pick up any negativity or that, so we can remove any negativity that we do pick up, which is one of the reasons why when we get up in the morning, we wash our hands, because the insight to that is that negativity does occupy our body when our soul elevates to the upper realm when we're asleep. And when our soul returns, the negativity leaves. But the negativity tries to hold on to the most important part of our body, which is our hands. Because this is the world of action. The negativity that we potentially create is done with our hands. So the negativity wants to be a part of that, wants to take our light. So again, when we get up in the morning, we typically wash our hands with the consciousness of removing that negativity that remained from the night. This particular verse from Psalms, tremble and sin not, it's a longer verse, that's just the beginning, Rigzi v'al techatau, is part of some versions of that prayer that we say at night before we go to sleep. So the other thing that we're getting here is this energy of protection from those verses, both now and of course when we go to sleep. And having that consciousness is really important. Now, I don't know if any of us struggles with our inability to sleep at night and what kind of thoughts we get bombarded with, but keep in mind that in the middle of the night, you're not fully there. Your soul's not fully there. You're not fully there. So, it's a very opportune time for the other side, for the Satan, to attack us with disturbing thoughts and again, take our light. So those verses that we say ahead of time are there, and there are extra verses if you need them. Those verses are all designed to assist us in maintaining a positive consciousness through the night, and certainly if we wake up in the night. Again, this is all about the more positivity, the more elevated our consciousness is, the more positive energy we're able to channel for the world. The more negative thoughts we are conjuring up or we are bombarded with, the more we stay in a negative consciousness, the more negativity we attract. So we need assistance. It's not so easy. Body consciousness is ego consciousness, we're going to fall a lot easier. So this is all about, again, us developing greater spiritual resilience to keep our boundaries up, our levels of protection up against negative energy, against negative thought. against negative speech, all those things. So this is our first huge takeaway from this section. Okay, keep going.
This verse has been explained. It behooves man to have his good inclination cause his evil one to tremble.
Well, how do we do that? How do we use our good inclination to make our evil inclination tremble? Anybody?
By maintaining our level of consciousness in the good side, right?
Yeah, absolutely. 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 So again, it's about our consciousness. Like when we catch ourselves with a cup half empty mindset, when we catch ourselves like focusing on our lacks, we want to be able to say, I'm not falling prey to that. Now we're going to. I mean, it's just part of human nature because we are souls having a physical experience. And that physical experience is overwhelming and at times. And we need that challenge in order for us to do the work and to reveal the light we want to reveal in this world. Yes, Suzanne. Can you unmute yourself? I see your hands up.
There we
Suzanne?
go.
There
It
you
took
go.
a few times to click on. It was like mute. Anyways, I think like proactive formula, right? I like your thoughts about awareness of negative thought, right? Because sometimes we get caught up in the litany and you don't even know that you're caught in the negative. So just to even have the awareness that you can at least see it and then that pause again. So I think that gives us more and more strength, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I mean, it's almost like a wave washes over us. It's like we never saw it. Thank you for Suzanne. We didn't see it coming. And all of a sudden, next thing we know, we're just awash in a field of negative energy. I mean, I think about it literally like almost getting knocked over by a wave, and you can be in the ocean and a wave kind of just like overtakes you. And we're like flailing in the water, if you've ever had that experience. But the same token, a good surfer is going to harness that energy. And so part of what we want to do is, and there is energy all around us. We just have to be aware of it, acknowledge it. And, those challenges come to us to assist us. I think I shared earlier this week, and I'll share again. It's this idea that you can look at life and ask, why is this happening to me? Or very simply, we can shift our mindset and understand that these things aren't happening to me, they're happening for me. Everything is happening. Everything I'm experiencing is happening for me. It's all coming for the light to assist me in the journey that I came here for. Okay, let's continue.
This is well. But when night falls and a man lies in his bed, numerous seekers of judgment, namely the damaging demons, stirs up in the world and goes and roams about.
Okay, so this is really twofold. It's not, yes, when night falls, a man lies in bed, which I referred to earlier. Yes, we're a little bit more vulnerable then. But also on a much deeper level, what does it mean? What does it mean, nightfall? When we're in a darkened area, where we're in an area with very low light, and I don't mean physical light, or sometimes it can be that. I mean spiritual light. We're in a negative place. That's where the demons hang out. That's where the opponent is waiting to pounce. And so we need to be able to identify where those negativities are. And to a certain degree, they're going to be different for all of us because we are wired with certain vulnerabilities. And they're related directly to our corrections, our tikkunim, our tikkuns. Like we're going to get tested in the places where we need growth, where we need to remove the blockages. So it's not just when we're asleep. Yeah, that can be. It's also where we are most vulnerable. And that can be in relationships. I'm sure a big part of it is in relationships, like where our vulnerabilities are in relationships, where we're going to get exploited in that way. Like our ability to know specifically, like in a new relationship, this just came up recently. In a new relationship, shouldn't require that much work. Things should come easy. And if they're not, it's like, when do I understand that this is not the right place to be putting my energy? It could be in a relationship. It could be in a business initiative. I really have an idea that I really want to see through, but it's like, it's way too challenging. Well, I mean, I don't want to be a quitter. Would be one way to look at it. And the other way to look at it is, I don't want to, from like from an oil exploration perspective, I don't want to be drilling any dry holes. There may not be oil in the ground there. It actually may not be a good idea. I may be totally off course, or I may be too ambitious in what I'm trying to accomplish, and I need to draw a much more narrower focus for what I'm doing. Like, we want the ability to see when our energy is drawn in the wrong places, and opening us through our vulnerabilities and our ability necessarily to see a deeper picture, opening us up to drilling a dry well, spending too much time on something that's not going to bear fruit in career, in relationship, in life. How do I know when it's time to pull up stakes and move on? I can think of other metaphors. When it's time to cut bait, it's not so easy. So another opportunity, another benefit that we're picking up for this section is the ability to discriminate and to understand, to conscious when we're in a dark place, and when we need to do much more self introspection, evaluation, where we need some more objectivity to assess whether or not this is actually working or not, whether or not it's actually creating negative energy as opposed to the positive energy which we set out to do, whether it's actually working for us. Yes, Maria.
Then how could I respond, understanding that concept that you just explained? How did I explain to someone when there is a challenge situation that I know that I shouldn't put a lot of energy to it, because I know I shouldn't put energy to it, right? So I just let it be. I just take it very casual, right? And other people look at it and look at me like, why I didn't react, or why didn't I put more effort? Why don't I put more care to it? And I'm like, why, right? And then they look at me like, you don't care. And I'm more referring to things in the office, because it's more
well, it applies to the
people,
office,
the
absolutely.
drama, right? And things
Yes,
happen in customer service and and I'm just like, let's handle it and move on. And they're like, right? Let's follow policy. And they're like, what? And I'm like, let's do it. And they just sometimes feel like there's no passion. It's just, no, there's passion. But where I feel that I feel that I should spend my time with passion in other areas than just being in front of the customer, being reactive on that side, which it could go pretty quickly, but I don't want to be there, right?
Yeah.
But learning through the process is just more like, let it go. We'll work through it, and everybody has their job, and everybody will handle it, and I'll stay on my side what I need to handle.
Right.
But yeah, I'm getting that, where, we need it more. And I just like, we need to learn how to balance that. And I'm learning that, and I'm trying to control that, but I'm getting that feedback. Like, I'm not being more, proactive the way that people wants to see it. So then how do I let them, I don't know.
Is
That's
this
my
coming from,
wisdom.
is this coming from people who work for you or people who you work for?
People that work with me.
Okay, so I think that it's a great question because it's not always so clear. But so I think we should distinguish between two different circumstances. One is some people just like drama. And so this a similar answer would be like, I understand what you're saying. The reason why you don't see me responding in the way in a certain way is because I'm not giving any of my energy to just fuel a drama that I don't think is important in the grand scheme. So that's one way. Like I hear what you're saying, but and the other thing, you want to validate, oh, I hear what you're saying, but like the other thing is I think it's very simple and it's easier for me to say because I'm not in this situation, but I think it's important to be able to communicate to people based on my experience, based on my expertise, my senses, this isn't going anywhere. And so I only have limited energy. I feel that my energy is best applied in these areas.
Mm-hmm.
I had a question. I had this exact conversation with a student yesterday who she has a job, but she also has a side gig, which is a startup that she's working on, which she's gotten funding for, and she's hired people. They've gotten government money to hire some people, and it's not bearing any fruit, and she's devoting a lot of time to it, and it's taking away from her profitable business. She's like, I don't know what to do. I mean, it's a great question. Like, what do I know? I'm not a business consultant, but like from a spiritual perspective, it's like you need to focus your energies. Like we can't do everything. And so to be effective, we need to, first of all, identify what are our unique abilities. What are the things that I do that I am really passionate about? That's what I need to be doing. And, someone else's agenda isn't really going to necessarily help me with that. That's their agenda. I am working on my highest and best use, my unique abilities. I want to stay in that area. When I am working in my unique abilities, I can literally do it 24/7. I shouldn't, but I could. But it's like, I want to wake up every day and just be passionate for everything that's lined up for me because I'm staying in the realm of my unique abilities. What about the other things that have to get done? I'm going to find people for whose unique abilities they're suited to do those things, but that's not my job. And so part of what we're doing in our growth professionally is constantly driving a narrower and narrow focus on what my unique abilities are. And it's easy to get away from that because there's a lot of distraction.
But David, what she started with and what you started with, it's always hard to find the right language, the right words when something is coming up so that you can acknowledge that it's there and then say, but we're going to direct our energies elsewhere. I mean, it's easy said in retrospect, right? And when it's happening, it's hard. So I think in our own minds, it's almost like we should come up with some sort of phrase that we're going to use when that comes up so that as it comes up, because it comes up all the time, right? And, whatever it is, look, I don't view this situation as having positive energy for our organization. None of us should be focusing our time here. Let's get on to the stuff we can do well. Something simple that you're done, and it can be the same line every time. Nobody will remember.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I think people need to be refocused because it's easy to get distracted. It's easy to get, of course, and it's easy to lose sight of. That's why companies have mission statements, but you need a culture. Mission statement is probably important, but equally important, if not more important, is that everyone understands the culture and how that culture is helping to further our goals, the goals that we are the basis of this business or of this undertaking or of this relationship or of my spiritual work. Like, what's my spiritual work all about? Well, I continually want to show up as a better version of myself.
Yeah.
I
Actually,
want everything I do to be changing the world for the better. Well, really, is that really a realistic goal? Yeah, because in the spiritual realm, we don't measure things the way we do in the business realm. We're not measuring for profit.
Yeah.
You know, everything we do of a positive nature that changes the world in a positive way is immeasurable, because we don't know which poppy seed is going to tilt the scale sufficiently for Messiah consciousness to manifest in this world. We have no idea. It can change in an instant. And those of us who've been on this path for a long time have seen things change in an instant. It's like, I don't want to miss that. And I don't want to have a consciousness that isn't open to think, and as difficult as challenges are, and as limited as the options seem, and as locked in as it might look on a 1% level, it is only 1%. So every circumstance, every situation where I feel locked in can change, can completely do a 180 instantaneously without any warning. And I want to be open to that because I don't want to miss that. So to be open to that, I have to be very careful about where my consciousness is and where I allow my consciousness to fall into. And so when I get hit by a wave of negativity, I want to be able to feel it. I want to be able to be with it, and I want to be able to move past it with greater resiliency every time. Yes, Ron.
I just want to add to that. I think this is a really great conversation. And I found that, like, for me, my automatic is to just do everything, you know, like to go, oh, okay, like I'll do this, I'll help you. Okay, I'll do that, right? And I want to do it. I just want to, like, you know, do everything, right? But like my challenge is, and I find that like what I need to work on spiritually is to because time is very limited, right? So I have to focus on what I feel is the best use for my time. And even in spirituality right now, I'm like seeing, okay, well, what would be the best use? Well, okay, like for me right now, it's like, okay, it's focusing on efforts with the Zohar, right? And I'm finding that it is challenging to say no, but you know, it's like a muscle that I have to like practice on. And um and so I just had it too. Like, it's gonna share another part of it is it's just maybe expressing that it's just not the best use of my time, right?
Right.
And then taking whatever they communicate with me,
Right.
whatever that is.
Right. And it's like, but like, you know, those who end up, you know, you have the vision. Not everyone shares that vision, but you know, when you have the vision, you know, that's what I think is important. Like, yeah, I see why you think that's important, but from my perspective, it's not helping us go where we need to go. And you know, I need to work on that vision.
Yeah, and sometimes people won't understand the vision that
They're
you're
not
getting.
gonna, no, of course not. No, of course
And
not.
it's
That's
okay.
not why that's why you're leading the charge and they're not many times.
Yeah, and that's
Yeah.
okay, right?
It's
And
okay.
just
Yeah. I mean,
having,
this is about teamwork. And you know, this is why you want to surround yourself with team players who are willing to play specific roles and it's like stay in your lane.
I think
Spiritually,
it's
stay in your lane.
but I think it's also having grace with people and meeting
Yes.
them, you know what I mean?
Yes.
Like that kind of communication with people. And
Yeah.
that's where the challenge is and the opportunity for growth, I think.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Very powerful. Thanks for sharing that, Ron.
Mhm.
Okay, let's continue.
Thus men should tremble before the Holy One, blessed be he, and fear him, so that their soul will not be among them, but will be saved from them.
So what should we afraid of? Being too attached to physical consciousness in this spiritual, from this spiritual perspective, like getting so hung up on like certain details that really don't matter. I mean, it's so aligned with what it is that we're saying. And that's what we should be afraid of. It's like you're up at bat, you got to hit the ball. Don't take your eye off the ball. I don't know, you know, think of a lot of metaphors. I mean, it's like, don't take your eye off the ball. They're going to be destroyed. That's what you should be afraid of. Especially if you take a ball, you may end up getting beamed by the ball. May hit you. It may hit you. It's like we need to stay focused on what it really is we're trying to accomplish. Now, you can be hyper-focused and also miss the forest for the trees. So again, it requires balance. It definitely requires balance. Like to just say, I'm staying on this path and ignoring all the indications that you shouldn't be on this path. Like for those of us who have like highly developed skill of perseverance, and perseverance is really important, but it can also be to a fault. So this is where balance is also another example of real importance. Like here we are, as I said at the outset, this is Tiferet of Yesod. And if you look at Yesod as, lines up really with the Zohar project, if you look at Yesod as like our desire to spread the Zohar, our desire to spread Kabbalistic wisdom throughout the world, it's got to be balanced. It's not a take all prisoners approach. We have to do it in Ron's words with grace, with mercy, with balance. We need a certain level of directness and a certain level of balance in the work that we do. And that's what we should be afraid of. Just not, again, in this context, and especially the energy of today, which is assisting us here, is being balanced in the work that we do. Okay, let's continue.
It behooves one not to utter one word of them, namely, not to speak of them at all, so as not to rouse them against him, and so that they will not be with him.
Okay, so here, in this case, again, we're talking about these, what is Rav Shlag refers to as name as damaging demons. These are negative entities. Like, don't mess with this.
Don't mess with them.
Don't mess with this. Certainly don't invite it in. Certainly, we don't need to talk about it. We want to maintain, well, wait a second, David, we're talking about it right now. Well, this is in the context of our Zohar study, which is like, a safe space to be talking about this, to be connecting to this. So what we're getting right here is an important spiritual vaccination against being tripped up, being influenced, being manipulated by negative entities. And again, the importance of keeping our consciousness in a positive place. Okay, keep going.
Hence, it says, commune with your own heart upon your bed, and be still, which means that one must not talk about them.
So, and I heard David Guillaume speak about this actually recently on Instagram. Part of what we want our consciousness to be is we don't want to be speaking about things from a negative perspective. We don't want to be approaching life from a perspective of lack. Wait, yeah, but don't we have, I have a lack. Yeah, I know you do. But we want to be focused on the blessings that we have. We want to be focused on the positivity that we are connected with. We want to direct our energies down the path roads and in the initiatives where we have the opportunity to generate more positive energy. And the more we stay connected to positivity, the more we keep our consciousness connected to positivity, the more positive energy we're able to draw into our lives for the sake of sharing with the world. So ultimately, it's about us creating more positive energy in the world. And, the Zohar is here saying, don't talk about, we must not talk about them. We also need to be careful to what we expose our consciousness to in the media. There wasn't social media when this was written, but this surely encompasses the world of social media with this tremendous amount of manipulation that's going on. So what we expose our consciousness to are like at a seed level is the kind of reality we want to have. So the huge takeaway here is it's not like I'm saying we need to be Pollyannish in our view of the world or look at the world through rose-colored glasses. No, we want to be very we want to be very, we want to set our consciousness. We want to be very intentional about how we're living. We want to also be very intentional about where our consciousness is and the types of things that we do, the things that we think about, the things that we talk about, the things that we do. We want to be aligned with creating more positivity for the world, creating more peace for the world, creating more solutions for the world. And in that way, growing in our ability to have a greater impact in a positive way about the world around us. Okay, we're out of time. Thank you all. Love you all.
Thank you.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat
Shabbat
shalom.
shalom.
Thanks, guys.
Okay.